I kind of want to take a break from all the long form content that I usually do, or even the short form content. And I want to talk about something that's like extremely vital to me as both like a person and a gamer, and that's going to be fighting games. Now, the first ever memory of a fighting game I have, and I'm using the term fighting game loosely here, is Super Smash Bros. For the Nintendo 64. I still remember that amazing intro of the hand coming out and grabbing all the figurines or dolls and putting them on the table as all the characters are starting to be shown off in their little intros, all culminating in the guys screaming, which just made my little mind as a kid explode. And I always had a great time being able to play the game by myself, trying my best to beat the levels, like break the targets or board the platforms. Was always a nice challenge for little me. But the real fun happened when my older brothers and our friend Carl would plug in our controllers. They would go over to the versus menu and we would just start duking it out with each other. After picking team battle, and they all picked their favorite characters, which I remember to this day: Greg's Blue Luigi, Carl's Captain Falcon, and Corey's Red Kirby, if he was allowed. They would just pick any of the maps and we would start duking it out. Each map brought out such a weird dynamic to the fights that it's hard to forget, like Link's Castle with the tornado, as my brothers are on the left side trying to throw each other and make sure they can't get to the edge, and I'm stuck under the stupid tower thing bashing my head against the wall. Or like Sector X, where I'm just wanting to ride the R-Wing and I would always never get off on time and I die because I'm just flying across as they're doing their little brawl down in the corner, which it was insane. I didn't want to get any part of that. I knew I was going to lose instantly. To my personal favorite, Pokemon Center, where I would just sit on the helicopter area spamming Pikachu Down Thunder as Corey's doing Kirby Down specials and everyone else is going crazy next to, I believe it was like an elevator where Pokemon came out with all their crazy crap. It was just a fun time. And funnily enough, I still own my copy of Super Smash Bros. To this day. I'll even boot it up sometimes and go look at the record just to remember how much we've played and all the little matchups, and it brings such a fantastic moment of nostalgia to me that I would never sell this copy for anything in the world. And that wasn't the only game in the house that we had. We also had a game called War Gods, which was just more of a traditional fighting game. And I would just mash buttons while my brother tried playing like regular characters. He loved that game. Corey loved that to death. He would pick every single character. The voodoo guy, he would pick the fire breathing guy, he'd pick the cyborg guy, and the chick that was named, I believe, Valkyrie. And I would always just play Anubis because I thought he was so cool, and I would always lose to what was some of the flashiest combos my little brain was seeing at that time. But what was great was my brothers always let me play these fighting games with them. Even if it was Ultimate Mortal Kombat and Corey would pick Raiden and just spam Raiden's dashing move because I didn't know how to figure that out. I didn't know what frame data was or plus moves or anything like that. I was just a kid picking who I thought was cool, getting beaten up by his older brothers. But I was still having fun. And what was great about these people that helped raise me was they would bring me to the arcade. And I might not have been able to play the fighting games, and I might be too young to, love that era of arcades and tell you the stories, but I could tell you my personal experience was I'd be over there on the snowboard, ski game, whatever it was, as Carl and Greg are waiting in line to play their fighting games. I believe it was Tekkens and the Socaliburs or Soul Edge, whatever was at the arcade. But I'd still always look back because I would run out of quarters and I'd watch them play. And I remember that line just being always hyped or like upset because they lost. I didn't understand how the whole waiting in line with the quarter thing worked. I just saw people getting excited. And as a little kid, that excited me too. So when I got into a spot where I could actually watch, and I'm seeing all the crazy bright lights and the combos, and then this one character that pops up on the screen, you might know him, he's called Spider-Man, shows up. I needed to know what that game was right away. And at that point, that's when I found out about Marvel vs. Capcom, and it just made me want to play the game even more. My favorite superhero of all time is in a fighting game. I wish I could have played, but I just wasn't allowed to at the arcades. But little did I know I'd be able to play a game like that way later on in my life, and I'll get to that a little bit later. Because around that time, after the arcades, we would go home, a day would pass, and the weekend would roll around, and I would come down to my brothers and them still playing fighting games, still playing games all day, if I wasn't stealing the TV. But this time, we owned a PlayStation 2. And they were playing Tekken 3. One of the greatest fighting games of all time, even to this day. I still see Carl spinning, doing Eddie Gordo bullshit all around while my brother Greg's playing who I thought was the coolest looking character, Jin. But I wasn't allowed to play Jin because that was his character. I couldn't play what would now be known as his main. I had to pick someone else. And I saw two characters I fell in love with, and that was Kuma the Bear, because he's a big bear. And I thought King was a goofy dude with a jaguar mask. And I just thought that was funny, and I loved it. And countless days were spent with Tekken 3 of my brother Corey playing Yoshimitsu and hopping around and spinning and just doing the goofy stuff Yoshimitsu does while everyone else is being extremely competitive in the house. I didn't get to play too much because the winner stayed, but I did get to go to my cousin's house because he also owned Tekken, and that's where the real fun for Tekken kicked in for me. Because every night I spent at my cousin's, we'd boot the game up, we would run through a Tekken attack. We thought that was the funniest thing when the chicken sound started popping off. And then we started playing Tekken Ball, the stupid volleyball game mode where you just hit the ball at each other, which was great for two little kids spamming buttons. And that's when we unlocked the little farting dinosaur that just made us laugh every time we played it. I wish Gon would come back. And it was just such a fun experience. We didn't take it seriously as kids. It was just it was what we wanted to do. We wanted to mash buttons, beat up robots, play with farting dinosaurs, and just do cool things. And I got so many great experiences with my cousin with fighting games too. Like I got to play Battle Arena Toshinden. I probably butchered the hell out of the name. Please forgive me. And we didn't know what we were doing. We were just spamming buttons, and I just had a great time. It enabled so many fun times throughout the households, no matter which one I was in. Because this would go back between me playing games like Dragon Ball Budokai series with my cousin, with the crazy beam struggles that everyone would know about and your palms are killing, and the funny supers in that game, like Hercule's Present for You, which I will always have a fond memory of, to going home and getting to play more serious-like games like Def Jam. Even though I had no idea anything about the rap industry at that time, they were heavily in love with that game, so I had to play it. To what then became one of the greatest games I ever experienced in the 3D fighting era, which is Socalibur 2. And I want to take some time to really dig down on Socalibur 2 because it was that great of a game and that vital to that area of my life. I used to be babysat at the time, and he had a copy of Socalibur 2 for the GameCube, and my brother had Socalibur for the Xbox, and someone else had it for PlayStation. So I got to play all the guest characters, but obviously you know where I'm going with this. The GameCube version with Link was blowing my mind. I got to play as this character in Smash Bros. And I played his 64 games, and now he's in this fighting game that I've been falling in love with. I loved that game since the moment I saw Link. And then that love fell even deeper and deeper when I started to figure out the little things, because my brain started to understand fighting games. I understood which buttons did what, and I understood how to combo slightly. It was a time I got to experience dungeon mode, where dungeon mode was just this crazy, you got to pick a direction, pray for the best, do some sort of wacky fight, and keep going, get money, and it had such a robust system. It kept you coming back. The replayability was insane. And then you had the cool-ass music and the fantastic intros that just got you so hyped to fight, and then you're just mashing your buttons with the little voice lines in between the fight, almost as like taunting your opponent. And the gameplay was just fantastic because every character felt distinct, and they all felt like you had someone that identified with a character in that series, even if you were a child. But Socalibur was such a great series. I remember getting the game Socalibur 4 for my birthday, and the first thing, my brothers saw it and they're like, oh my god, it's that series again, because we didn't own 3. And we booted up, and this is the one with Yoda, so we're just bouncing around with Yoda and playing all the characters again. And I could see what would now be known as nostalgia to me in my brother's eyes. And I loved seeing that feeling from him, and now talking about it gives me nostalgia. And that, given Socalibur 4 wasn't the best game ever, but it really comes down to the time I was able to spend with these people. Like at one point, my mother owned a hot dog shop, which not a lot of people know about, but while I helped clean the tables and I would walk after middle school, my brother Corey, who I've mentioned before in this video, would probably be working, or even Greg. But they would have Mortal Kombat versus DC hooked up to the television, and we would just play that while we waited for customers. And by all metrics, Mortal Kombat versus DC isn't the best game to ever live, but at that time it was, you had superheroes fighting the Mortal Kombat guys, which we all knew both of the series at this point, and we still took these games semi-serious, and at this point I knew how to play. So I was actually taking some games, even though I was still a little brother, I'd get kicked off no matter what, it didn't matter. Moments like this would continue even into high school for me, where I had my own Xbox and I was able to download Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and I already had all the characters unlocked, and I was finally able to experience the game. But admittedly, I didn't put too much time into it, because by the time I downloaded MVC2, I got a call from my brother saying, hey, remember that game with Spider-Man that you really like? It's the Marvel vs. Capcom series. And I'm like, yeah, I'm playing 2 right now. I didn't know Marvel vs. Capcom 3 was just releasing that week. So he let me know. We went out and we got the game day one. And I still remember seeing that character select screen, the comic book, the music blaring, and just watching them play their first match. And then I get to experience my first match, who I finally got to pick Spider-Man, Wolverine, and Amaterasu. And this was where I experienced my first ever moment of competitiveness, because I got to go against our friend Brad at the time, and he, don't even remember his team, but he was beating me bad. I was down to Wolverine half health, and I didn't even know what X Factor was, but I pressed the buttons and I took it back, a 1-3 team reverse sweep, and it clicked right there. I understood everything that the people at the arcade were getting excited about. I understand the upsets because it's exactly what I just did to Brad. I'm sorry, Brad. And it just, right there was the moment that made me a real fighting game player in my head. This was the series I wanted to stick with. This was the genre that I loved. And I still see Brad getting so mad that I won that he went home and he brought Ultimate Mortal Kombat back to the house and tried making me play that again. And the last time I played, I was getting raided and spammed, and now he put cheats in to play Motaro, and I was just trying my best to play Sub-Zero, but I lost. But I still felt great that day, because now my brothers and our friends saw me as a potential threat of a winner-takes-all kind of deal, and I felt like I could actually be good at a fighting game, which led me into participating in tournaments at school, and I actually won Super Street Fighter 4 tournament by just spamming Blanca's electric in the corner, because I didn't know who Blanca was, to be honest, or at least I didn't know his moves, and we weren't allowed to look at the move list. So I ended up winning like monsters and a Snuggie from that, and I would just make a lot of friends at school about fighting games. I got to play Mortal Kombat 9 with some close friends. I got to play Tekken Tag Tournament 2, which was the best roster I've ever seen in my entire life. Even Socalibur 5, that was when I started experiencing fighting games by myself and really just trying to enjoy them. I know probably not the best option to start with, but it was still a great experience. Now, I could sit here and continue into my adult life where all these new games are coming out, and you know, the want to be a content creator starts kicking in. But I just want to kind of stop it there at the high school area. I don't want to dig too much more into the memories there, because who knows, maybe I'll make a video in the future. And with all that said, although those days of me picking Pikachu and spamming Thunder in the corner while my brothers duke it out, or even just being really competitive with my family and friends, may be long gone, and those memories will always be with me. This medium has continued to introduce me to more great people throughout my life, and I can't be anything but thankful for that. So with all that said, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch a video like this. I'm sorry if it was too short, I'm sorry if it was too long, but if you have some sort of great memories that got you into the fighting game space, no matter when it was, please let me know down in the comments. With all that said, I just want to say thank you. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Peace.